Hello, everybody. It's Eileen West and Dr. West. I'm a general internist in Fairfax, Virginia, and welcome to our Facebook Live session today. I am very pleased to be able to introduce Mary Hunt, who is a registered dietitian who works with our practice. And she is going to talk with us today all about the Mediterranean diet. So we'll give everybody a minute to get on. How are you today, Mary?
Great. I'm excited. I'm honored to be here to share some information and some easy, quick tips. It's just so important that during this time that we make things easy and enjoyable and sustainable. I always go through those three things. Easy, enjoyable, and sustainable. And that's what I'd like to do today, is just give you some easy ideas to follow a heart-healthy dietary pattern.
That's wonderful. Well, we are thrilled that you're free and available to do this with us today.
Fantastic.
So, all right, let's give everybody a minute or two to jump on, and then we will go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. So you can see some food models behind me. And Dr. West is going to bring up some slides. So I will have some product ideas if you want to take some notes. I always tell my patients to take notes if you'd like to. But there are some products out there that are actually heart healthy, that are easy and quick. And as you can see, there's one book that I strongly recommend. It's called The Blue Zones. Actually saw Dan Buettner in person at the National Geographic. They had a reception for him, and they had a lot of his foods from that book. I talked about the Blue Zones. I just wrote a blog for Dr. West's website, and I talked about the Blue Zones, 5 areas in the world where they live the longest, happiest lives. And that's actually what I want to do today, is to facilitate your happiest, healthiest self. Not just, happiness is so important in all this. And, I can tell people to eat the healthiest food, but I always ask people, do you enjoy it? So you have to consider some healthy options, but also enjoy them. And that is the key. Because, sustainability is what really matters in the long run. So do you want to start with the slides? I have a great quote. I love Michael Pollan.
Sure. All right. Well, also, Mary, I just want to go ahead and formally introduce everybody to you. Okay. Just so you know, you're originally from the Washington, D.C. area. You received your undergraduate degree from Mary Washington College and a master's degree from Columbia University Institute of Human Nutrition. Wonderful. And also did a postgraduate fellowship at the John F. Kennedy Institute for Handicapped Children. And you have focused in a variety of areas throughout your career: weight management, heart health, diabetes, gastrointestinal diseases, child and adolescent nutrition, sports nutrition, really run the gamut. And one of the things that I loved when I first met you was how strong your association has always been with primary care practices too. And so I think it really it puts us in such a wonderful position to have you available to our patients. So we're really grateful to you for being here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I will put on the slides. Give me just a moment here.
So I wanted to start with a slide because I received my master's in 1983. It was a long time ago, and things really haven't changed. I mean, there's been a lot of studies that science is constantly evolving, but everything seems to go back to this one fabulous quote: "Don't eat anything your great-great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food." So how do you build? The first question is, what is a heart-healthy diet? And I don't want to say diet. I want to say dietary pattern, because there's no one, everyone says, oh, just give me give me the supplement, give me the food that is going to be the best. Well, it's actually how it fits into a pattern of a plate, actually. And that's the next slide, is what does a healthy plate look like? And this is a heart healthy plate. And I think what we need to really understand is diets begin and diets end. This is not a diet, it's a dietary pattern. And it's a pattern, a heart healthy dietary pattern is a pattern of inclusion. It's really not, people are just, so many of my patients, well, they're afraid of eating fruit. They're afraid of eating carbs. Carbs are actually very, very important, but we want to do the good carbs. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So if you take a plate and you divide it, first thing you want to do is divide it in half. In half the plate, you want colorful, you want produce. I try, for people that are trying to watch their weight, I say at least 40% non-starchy vegetables, and then we have the fruit, but fruits are important. And so again, are the good carbs, especially because the kind of fiber that those include really are so important for our gut microbiome, which has been shown to be so important in our immune system. It's good for our heart, it's good for our guts, and for our digestive, just having a regular bowel movement. It's important to get enough fiber. And when I did the blog for Dr. West, I had talked about added sugar and added sodium. I didn't talk about fiber as much as I would have liked to. And so the other component that's really important is, as Americans, we're not getting enough fiber. We need fiber. And I always say fiber for fullness. So getting more fiber helps give us a sense of fullness, and it's feeding those good bacteria in our guts. So again, half the plate produce, then you want about 25% or even less. It doesn't have to be a complete 25% of good carbs, whole grains, the legumes, the starchy vegetables. Sweet potatoes are okay. Even white potatoes, it's what we put on them that's the problem. Brown rice, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have brown rice. People say, well, can I have white rice? I'm like, yes, of course. It's, there's more fiber with the brown rice, but white rice is fine too. Quinoa, whole grain breads are also so helpful. And I have some labels I'll show you in just a minute. And then we want a little bit of protein, but we don't need as much protein as people think that we need. And protein is such a huge part of our plates right now. Just protein should be thought of more of as a condiment, just a small amount. But the main thing about the protein is spreading it out through the day. And then we want some heart healthy fats, nuts, seeds, olive oil. A heart healthy diet is really one of the biggest components of a heart healthy diet is extra virgin olive oil. So getting some good fats helps promote a feeling of fullness. When you don't get a fat in a meal, a lot of times you're hungry. People say, oh, Mary, I have cereal and skim milk in the morning and a banana and I'm hungry 2 hours later. Well, if you added some fat, if you had some nuts to that, or some seeds, or you had 2% milk, it would actually really help you fill up more and help stabilize your blood sugar over longer periods of time. And if you have like an egg and toast, but the toast is also an important ingredient because it adds fiber, and then getting some kind of color in there with the berries or the tomatoes. So next slide. Go on to the next slide. So a Mediterranean dietary pattern is very similar to what I just showed you. Again, you want to fill half your plate with color, veggies and fruit, and not just with dinner. Actually, with each meal, it's really beneficial to have fruits and vegetables. And we want proteins, primarily plant-based protein is the Mediterranean dietary pattern, lentils and beans, and fish. There's 22 countries that are part of the Mediterranean area there, the Mediterranean diet pattern, where we talk about 22 countries, and most of them are right around the Mediterranean Sea, and they eat a lot of fish. Again, not a lot of red meat, and especially not a lot of processed meat. Healthy carbs, so important. I'm half Armenian, and we had a lot of bulgur. We had a lot of cracked wheat. We had a lot of beans and lentils. We didn't really have a lot of refined carbs until until I got older. People are always wondered what kind of food I would have. Red lentil patties. I have several recipes on my website that will have legumes in there. Some red lentil patties and my red lentil soup. Fats, again, preferably extra virgin olive oil. Not a lot of butter. Not a lot of coconut oil. You know, some people swear by coconut oil, but for right now, for heart health, unless it's purified coconut oil, we're really trying to work with unsaturated fats. Unsaturated fats seem to be less inflammatory. And then dairy, the Mediterranean way, unsweetened. When I grew up, my grandmother would make yogurt, and I really didn't like it. But you know, we get used to sweeten things. But now I am used to plain yogurt, and I add fruit to sweeten it. I even, if you want to go the Mediterranean way, you can even, I chop up some dried figs the night before, and I'll put it in my plain yogurt. Or you can cut up a date the night before, and it naturally sweetens it. You can add nuts, seeds. When I was growing up, they didn't have sweet yogurt. Actually, my grandmother would put cucumbers, and she would put mint or dill in it. So that Mediterranean dietary pattern. Okay, next slide. So veggies and fruit. So people always ask me, what are the top? What are some of the best fruits and vegetables that you recommend? And actually, if you really want to know some of the top ones, it would really be berries. And I did my national conference that they were talking about brain berries. They were talking about cognitive, how to get your brain the sharpest. So they call them brain berries. So blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, and greens. Greens are also excellent. Those are two of the top for brain health. There's something called the Mediterranean Dash intervention for neurodegenerative delay. It's called the MIND diet. And by following this dietary pattern, we've been able to reduce cognitive decline. We're thinking it may help prevent Alzheimer's disease or slow Alzheimer's. And so on this dietary pattern, they eat greens, they eat berries every day. And, you know, people just don't want to eat fruit. They're afraid that it's added sugar, and it's not. Actually, in the Mediterranean dietary pattern, that's actually one of the things that they eat in dessert. In Italy, they don't have cakes. They don't have a lot of sweets. Even growing up, we didn't have baklava and a lot of desserts growing up. We had fruit. We had fruit for dessert. So whether it's fresh or frozen, freezing is nature's pause button. Frozen fruit is fine. Frozen strawberries, blueberries. And, you know, people are so worried, well, it has to be organic. There are some that are preferably if you have the extra money to do organic, but conventional grown is fine too. Just getting some fruit and vegetables are really the most important. So I encourage you to eat more fruit. I encourage you to eat more vegetables. And again, thinking half your plate as being colorful. Okay, next slide. So going back to the carbs, so many of my patients are so afraid to eat bread. They just want to have major protein at dinner, and they will have a salad, but then they load it with salad dressing. But if you had some carbs, it would actually fill you up. Not a lot, even just a half a cup of cooked brown rice, or if you had some bulgur, quinoa, or even a small potato, it helps fill you up. Also, whole grains are high in B vitamins, minerals, and again, that wonderful dietary fiber that we need. Eating more whole grains can lower the risk of heart disease, cancer, stroke, type 2 diabetes. And again, it's an important source of prebiotics, which feeds the good bacteria. Okay, next slide. So I actually have some pictures of some healthy carbs. Cheerios are just fabulous. They're whole grain. You actually can see on labels, it'll say how many grams of whole grains are in there. Shredded wheat, grape nuts, Quaker oats, excellent. Of all the cereals, probably oatmeal is one of the top. It's the least processed, but so is shredded wheat. And grape nuts doesn't have a lot of ingredients either. Uh, a wonderful bread is the Ezekiel bread is wonderful. Dave's Killer bread is also good. The rye bread. There's some of the Norwegian cracker bread, also whole grains. And then I had to put a label of Mary's Gone crackers. They're 100% whole grain. And for those that are trying to follow a gluten-free diet, they're also gluten-free, the Mary's Gone crackers. If you want some quick carbs, you can even get packets of brown rice and quinoa heated up in the microwave. The one thing, though, you have to watch is the portion size. That packet of brown rice, it actually could have 3 or 4 servings in there for a woman and maybe 2 servings for a man. So even though it's heart healthy, you still have to watch the portion size. That's so key, because a lot of people come and say, Mary, I'm doing all these healthy foods, but I'm not losing weight. And I said, well, olive oil, avocado, salmon, they're all heart healthy, but we still have to watch the portion size. So they're heart healthy, but they're not necessarily weight friendly. I have another picture of one of my favorites, popcorn. Popcorn, believe it or not, is also a whole grain. Popcorn is an excellent snack. And if you want a portion, these are great. They're excellent snack size. You could even have this with a little bit of protein, with a little piece of cheese if you wanted to get some protein along with your snack. Again, I have some snack ideas on my website. Feel free to download them. You can just go, there's meal and snack suggestions. Okay, next slide. Oh, and this is a fun rule. I love to go over this. There's something called a 10-to-1 ratio. And if you look at a label, say oatmeal, I have an oatmeal box right here. Look at the total carbs in the serving size, and then look at how many grams of dietary fiber. So for 10 grams of total carbs, it's great to have at least 1 gram of total of fiber. So this oatmeal has, the total carbs are 27, the dietary fiber is 4, as opposed to something like cream of wheat, where the total carbs are 25 per serving and the fiber is only 1. So the more fiber something has, the better. Again, it will help fill you up. It's a food for your gut bacteria. I have another example. I just bought these. These are whole wheat tortillas. They're Mission whole wheat. And for 22 grams of carbs in one a whole wheat tortilla, there's 5 grams of natural fiber. First ingredient is whole wheat flour. That's what you want to see on the label. Whole wheat or whole grain. Okay. So I mentioned briefly about protein. And again, in the Mediterranean dietary pattern, the heart healthy dietary pattern, we don't want a lot of protein at a meal. We want to spread out small servings of protein. And most of us do not actually get enough protein at breakfast earlier in the day. A lot of times we've had so much to eat the night before. We have such a large serving of protein that people really aren't hungry in the morning. So if you're really not hungry in the morning, sometimes look and see what you've had the night before. Have you had a 7-ounce piece of meat? Have you had too much protein? Because even, again, a palmful of protein is enough at a meal. So getting more protein at breakfast can actually, it seems to stabilize your blood sugar for the rest of the day. And there's been a lot of studies that actually show that it actually can decrease your craving for sweets and for processed snacks later on in the afternoon. So a good source of protein with each meal, it can help you feel sharper. It can help keep your blood sugar stable. If you have pre-diabetes or diabetes, it's important to get a little bit of protein, fat, and those healthy carbs at each meal. More and more, we're thinking less carbs, but good protein and good fat. But again, if you do have the carbs, those high fiber carbs, those slow release carbs, protein at a meal can decrease hunger between meals. And as we get older, there's something called sarcopenia. We lose our muscle tissue as we get older. You actually start losing muscle in our early 40s, and it starts to accelerate in your 50s. So the best way to hold on to that muscle is to include protein throughout the day. They feel that that really helps the most with muscle repair and muscle stabilization, so you don't lose it. And also what's really important is to actually use your muscle. And actually, this may be a good time to mention, in the Mediterranean pattern and in the blue zones where they live, some of the longest living people in the world, they move every 20, 30 minutes. And that's part of this whole experience is, diet is one part, but so there's other factors that are also important. And movement is one that's just so incredibly important. Had to put that in there. So again, most people don't get enough protein at breakfast. Okay, next slide. So the preferred sources of protein in the Mediterranean dietary pattern are beans. Plant-based protein #1. Beans and peas, dried and canned. I encourage my patients to have a meatless Monday. Maybe you could have some soup and a salad, a split pea soup, or you can have vegetarian chili would be great, or a tofu dish. Even some veggie patties. I have a picture of a couple that I like a lot. And fish, again, fish is one of the preferred sources of protein, just a small amount of fish. And there's an acronym SMASH, which are the least, the fish with the least amount of mercury: salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, and herring. But again, even if it does have any kind of mercury in it, the benefits outweigh the risks. So as long as you switch it up, if you have, albacore tuna every day, that's probably not the healthiest. But if you have the light tuna, it has less mercury. The smaller the fish, usually the less mercury. But salmon is excellent. Mackerel, anchovies, sardines. If there's any way I could get you to eat sardines, it would be awesome. But again, light tuna is also an excellent source of protein. Skinless poultry, chicken, turkey, unprocessed soy products, tofu, edamame, tempeh. Eggs are great. Unless you have an elevated cholesterol level, you can have an egg every day. If you prefer to have egg whites or egg substitute, that's fine too. Great source of protein. Nuts and seeds do have protein as well. Lean unprocessed meats such as pork, tenderloin, even sirloin. But again, in the Mediterranean countries and in the blue zones, they eat very limited amount of red meat. There's maybe 3 ounces, maybe once a week or a couple times a month. Next slide. So these are some vegetarian, these are some meatless sources, some plant-based protein. So one of my favorite are these chickpeas. A lot of times I'll just rinse them out, and I love a chickpea salad. A lot of times I have that over some greens. I just mix it up with some low-fat mayonnaise and some spices and tomatoes, and even some turmeric, and I'll put it over some greens. There's tempeh there, quick and easy. You can just add it to soups. You can stir fry it. I have my my red lentils, which I grew up with. I grew up with red lentil soup. There's other lentils there. Those French lentils are loaded with protein. They're excellent, and they cook so quickly. Another one of my favorites is that edamame pasta. There's a lot of great plant-based pastas now. Instead of whole wheat is great, but there's also some pastas that have a fair amount of protein in them. That edamame pasta, one serving has 24 grams of protein. That's as much as 3 ounces of chicken. And it's got a great source of fiber. So you're getting protein and fiber, and it's a plant-based protein. That Melodious Blend is a wonderful fast food from Trader Joe's. I love that Melodious Blend. You actually can have half of that bag, and and yeah, it is a processed food, but it's minimally processed, and it's so much better than eating out. The sodium in there is half of what you get in another meal out. Now, even in a bowl of bean soup, if you ate out, it would probably be 900 milligrams of sodium, and a serving of that maybe have 300. There's another one of our favorites, those high protein veggie burgers on the bottom. Those are pea protein burgers. A lot of people would prefer not to have soy, and those actually do not have soy in them. They're pea protein, another excellent source of protein. Another quick and easy meal are those Madras lentils. I get those at Costco, but Harris Teeter have them. A lot of other places have them. And a lot of times I'll just use a half a packet. I've taken them to the beach for a quick and easy meal. And then I'll just add some vegetables to it, or I'll add a hunk of tofu to it, have it with a salad. And it's just a great plant-based protein with a lot of wonderful spices. So those are all quick and easy vegetarian meals, plant-based, high fiber, and excellent protein. Okay, next slide. Okay. Oh, okay. This is my idea of fast food. There we go. And that's the second to the last, my last slide.
Sorry, Mary.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, here are some omega-3s. These are some of my quick and easy fish ideas. So again, if it's too complicated, a lot of people aren't going to do it. So these are quick and easy. I put together my dinners in about 20, 30 minutes. Unless I'm making some kind of a bean soup. These are really quick, but even my beans take, sometimes 20, 30 minutes to make. But these are some fun things that, again, are so easy and quick to make. A lot of times I'll just cook these mussels, and I'll have a side of pasta and some vegetables with it. These are great. I got these at Harris Teeter, and I love mussels. The sardines are excellent source of omega-3s, and it's in an individual can. I got those from Costco. You can eat the whole can. It's a little hard to eat at work, but when you're at home, you could have a can of those sardines and some great whole grain crackers and some veggies would be wonderful, or salad with it. Those mahi burgers are from Trader Joe's. Again, they do have a few ingredients in them, but they are so quick and easy and tasty. It not only has to be healthy, but it has to be tasty. And those would be great on a whole grain, a whole wheat thin, or I just have it with a small baked potato, or you don't even need a baked potato. I would just steam some broccoli with it, maybe even have a half a cup of rice. There are some tuna packs that are quick and easy. They even have flavors now. I did get a mercury-free fish at Costco. They have some this yellow tuna. At Costco, I also get these Pacific salmon burgers. They're quick and easy. And then I get frozen shrimp a lot of times. I'll defrost them. And actually, shrimp is actually pretty healthy as long as we don't dip it in butter. So Shrimp is low in saturated fat. It's not too high in sodium. And a lot of times I'll just defrost some shrimp, have it with a little cocktail sauce. And then underneath there is some canned wild salmon and some tuna. And that's a serving of salmon, one of my food models there. And again, that's even a 5-ounce piece of salmon. So even 3 ounces would be plenty. Okay, next slide. My snack ideas. So I can't end without some snack ideas. So when you follow a healthy dietary pattern, most people, their blood sugar goes down at about 4 hours after a meal. 4 or 5 hours, we start to get hungry. So in the afternoon, if you've had lunch at like 12, if you have a snack around 4, what you want to think about is a source of protein and carbs with your snack. So some of my favorite snacks would be that dry roasted edamame is a great snack. It has, it has protein, it has some healthy fat, and a lot of fiber. It's like the perfect trifecta. Protein, a little bit of fat, and fiber. Those Mary's Gone crackers, again, I love those. People love them with, you can get little individual pieces of cheese. You could have a little bit of hummus with it. You could have an ounce of peanut butter. Those little cherry tomatoes are real easy. The little tomatoes on the vine. I like those little peppers. The blueberries, again, brain berries, excellent. You can even buy them frozen and put them in some yogurt. Put them in the plain yogurt and add some. You can add a tablespoon of oats on there, or some grape nuts for some crunch, or a tablespoon of nuts. Have a little bowl of dates there. If you want something sweet, you can just put, again, a couple chopped dates in the plain yogurt overnight. For those of you who would prefer not to have plain yogurt, you can try that. The Chobani line has a Chobani less sugar, and it actually has real sugar in it, but it's not that much. I actually personally prefer not using the stevia or the monk fruit or sucralose, and actually just getting, if you need to put a little bit of sugar in it, I'd rather have some kind of a dried fruit in there without added sugar, just plain fruit sugar, as opposed to an artificial sugar or adding a lot of other cane sugar to it.
Mary, is that maple seasoning that you got, or maple flavoring?
Yes. So I use a lot of extracts, actually, and they actually have a maple extract. So I put maple extract in my yogurt. I also have raspberry extract. I've put pumpkin in there. I put rum extract in there. So, and then another great product is kefir. I cannot, kefir is one of the best probiotics. I'm not for the research I read about probiotics, I really strongly recommend that you try to get it food-based. But plain kefir is a tough one for a lot of people. I'm actually used to it. I love it, but I do put frozen fruit in there. I put frozen strawberries or berries, and it just makes a real nice dessert. I also use a lot of cocoa powder. You can see under those fava bean snack. Those are great. A little bit of protein and some great fiber in those. They're called Enlightened. They're fava bean snacks. And to sweeten it up, I put Hershey's cocoa in it, just the cocoa powder, or some cinnamon. And those are individual servings of guacamole, are great snacks. And you can have those with carrots. I try not to do a lot of carbs with it, but the best thing to have with the hummus or the guacamole are some veggies, but you can have a few crackers as well. And then I have some walnuts on there. We call them brain nuts. They're excellent. Excellent. But again, measure the nuts. Measure the nuts. So the bottom line is to eat food, not too much. Again, even the good food, we got to watch the serving sizes. and mostly plants. If we can go more to a plant-based dietary pattern, really build your plate around vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and a little bit of protein. It would be better for the planet and our bodies if it was, a plant-based protein. But even if it's seafood or chicken or turkey, and again, none of this is, I'm a realist, not a perfectionist. So, we want our hamburgers, we want our steaks. They're comforting foods. But what we need to think about is it's the pattern that we're eating. One meal isn't going to be a problem, or two meals aren't going to be a problem, but it's what you eat over, days, over weeks that are really the most important. But if you start adding more color and you're starting to be more mindful of your choices, it's just, invaluable. Why doesn't nutrition matter? Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States right now. And cancer is #2. And actually COVID is #3, I think, the CDC had just said. And by following this plant of, really high concentrations of plant food, of fruits and vegetables, and not a lot of red meat, a lot of processed meats, it's actually not only good for our heart, it's good for our cholesterol, our blood pressure, for diabetes management. And it's also important for inflammation. It can decrease inflammation. It's good for our bones. And it's also, I keep going back to this, it's so important for our gut microbiome. And our guts are actually the #1 immune organ in our body. We're finding more and more information about how important it is to keep our guts healthy. And when we eat more fiber, again, it's feeding those good bacteria. The good bacteria are happy, and it's going to promote less inflammation, and it's going to help with our immune system. So in this time of COVID, we want to optimize our immune system. And then the one last huge benefit of following this, again, as I mentioned, the mind intervention, that Mediterranean dash intervention for neurodegenerative delay, by eating more plant-based food and berries and nuts and greens. It's actually helping our cognition. We can think clearer. We remember better. We can process our information. When you're feeling clear, when you have a balance of nutrients, it's actually going to help you feel better. My patients say, they feel clearer between meals. They have more energy to move around more. So there's so many positives to this, and I hope you'll just even think about one or two changes. Even if you just started eating fruit more often, or some, thinking about maybe not only having vegetables at dinner, but at lunch, or just small changes. It would just be so incredibly helpful. So I'm going to end with a quote by Leo Tolstoy. True life is lived through tiny changes. So, small changes, so many of us want to change everything at once. And the smaller the change, if you can just start, you make one change and then just gradually add on and work with the family. Actually, part of the Mediterranean dietary pattern and lifestyle is connection. That this diet is one thing. Movement is also so important. Stress management is so important for our overall health and well-being. But so is connection. We need connection. And, let's not rush through our meals. If we could sit down and eat and enjoy our meals with people, that's what the Mediterraneans do. They eat. They eat with others. It's a time for connection, not to quickly eat it and be done with, but take the time to eat the fruits and the vegetables. They're slow food. They take a little bit longer to eat. Enjoy them. So joy is so incredibly important. joy and easy and something that's sustainable. So questions for me. Oh, smash. Okay. What is smash? Okay. Someone had asked about smash. So if there's an acronym smash, do you want to bring up the fish slide back up again?
Oh, sure. And actually, I wrote it down. It's salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. Right?
Are the lowest and right, the lowest in mercury, the lowest of any contaminants. Yeah, great. I mean, but again, tuna fish is fine. People are so worried about mercury. The albacore tuna, the larger tuna, are going to have more mercury. Yeah. But again, if you vary it up, I actually do love albacore tuna. I love Costco's albacore tuna. I do get that, but I also have the light tuna, and I eat a lot of salmon. I love Costco's canned salmon, that wild salmon. Make salmon salad all the time. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's all about, varying it up a little bit. And someone had asked about avoiding lunch meat. Or is it oven roasted turkey? Okay, excellent question. So, I prefer not having luncheon meat, but if you do, there are some great brands out there. A boar's head is wonderful. Actually, Trader Joe's has, I love roast beef, a confession. And Trader Joe's, actually, it's by Columbus. It's minimally processed. And so you can get Columbus is another brand, Dietz and Watson. And then Trader Joe's, I don't work for Trader Joe's, but they also have a great product that I recommend. It's called Simply Chicken or Simply Turkey. It's thick slices of real chicken and real turkey. It does have a little sodium, but not nearly as much as what you'd get out. But yeah, oven roasted turkey's fine. Absolutely. Again, especially Boar's Head is an excellent brand. So, turkey's great. And even ground turkey's okay. Turkey burgers are actually another fun thing to get. I have gotten Trader Joe's turkey burgers. Costco used to have them as well, but a lot of turkey burgers actually have skin in it, but some of them actually don't have that much fat in there. Quick and easy and fun. Kids love them. So other questions? Excellent question. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some really good ones. Hi, Nanette. Hi, Cherie. Hi, Jillian. It's so good to see everybody on here. Jill had a question about are phytates in legumes and seeds problematic? And she's thinking specifically, I think, about whether or not it interferes with absorption of minerals that are really important to us, like calcium. And have you heard anything about that, Mary? Or
So it's all about moderation and balance. And I think one of them actually, if you're worried about calcium absorption, what I would worry more about than the phytates, unless you eat beans at every meal, what I would be more concerned about with calcium absorption is spreading the calcium out throughout the day. We only absorb about 500 milligrams of calcium. So, if you could have your calcium at breakfast and then some calcium at dinner, and maybe you don't need, calcium, maybe not count on the calcium at lunch as much if you have beans. But I don't really think it's that much of a problem in the research that I've done, because I eat a lot of beans, and actually I have a history of osteoporosis, which now I have osteopenia. But I've had a lot of dairy. I have a strong family history of osteoporosis, but and I've been doing dairy my whole life, but that's what's happened. But I do eat a lot of beans, and but I also do a lot of milk, but I spread it out. So, I don't really think it's a problem, but I'm into the moderation, and I think it's an excellent question. So, everything in moderation.
It's also really important to let people know that you don't, there's so many good sources of calcium, not just dairy products. so many of our dark green leafy vegetables, our whole grain, foods, our navel oranges have 60 milligrams of calcium in them. So it's really, you have a lot of choices, not just with dairy. So.
Right. And actually there's some plant-based dairy. So some of the like the oranges and the greens don't have, you'd have to eat a lot of them to get enough calcium. But actually one thing that you might even want to consider, but that's a great, when you get the greens and you get the fruits and vegetables, they're fabulous. But the plant-based milks are actually really good. They're really high in calcium. And so almond milk doesn't have a lot of protein. People ask me, is almond milk okay for breakfast? I'd like you to get a little more protein at breakfast. Almond milk just has 1 gram of protein. But there is something called, there's a pea protein milk. Actually, I just bought this. It's a Ripple, and it actually has 8 grams of protein. And it's actually got more calcium than just regular dairy milk. There's 440 milligrams of calcium in 1 cup of this. So, if we're working on 1,500 milligrams a day, this is an excellent source of calcium. And almond milk, even though it doesn't have a lot of protein, it does have an excellent source of calcium. So I drink almond milk for my calcium supplement. Yeah, it's great.
We had a question about regular oatmeal and the instant or 3-minute oatmeal. What do you lose when you speed it up?
Okay, so the best oatmeal, again, is the least processed. So the steel cut oatmeal, so if you go in order, the steel cut oatmeal would be the least processed. And it would slow your blood sugar down the longest. So it is the more whole, intact grain. And then there's oatmeal, and then there's the instant oatmeal. You know what? My feeling is eat oatmeal. So if instant's the easiest for you, it's better to eat instant oatmeal than no oatmeal. Mm-hmm. And again, oats have no added sugar unless you add sugar to it. And if you can add sugar through dried dates or raisins, that is not added sugar. That is a natural fruit sugar. So yeah, I think instant oatmeal is fine. I'm a realist, not a perfectionist. And I would rather you eat more oats and not worried about whether it's instant or steel cut. A lot of times people will make a big pot, and make 4 servings out of the steel cut. I actually even put it in yogurt overnight. I love to put oats in overnight. I've even put steel cut in overnight. And it makes it real crunchy. It's actually like having nuts in there. Mm-hmm. So I love steel cut oatmeal, but it does take longer to make. Excellent question.
Yeah. And then I just had a question for you. We hear a lot about the DASH diet for people who are working on optimizing blood pressure management. And sometimes it seems like DASH and Mediterranean are sort of used interchangeably. Are there like notable differences, or is it okay to sort of lump them together between the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet?
So it is okay to lump them together. So the Mediterranean diet does not have as much dairy as the DASH. I think DASH actually has a little bit more dairy. And then they also have a little bit more protein than the Mediterranean. Mediterranean really is a lot of plant-based. Mm-hmm. So the DASH, again, they're going to have a little bit more dairy. And that the potassium is so important for blood sugar regulation. But again, there's a lot of vegetables we need to get more potassium. It's a natural diuretic. And not just bananas have potassium, but melon has potassium. Prunes are another great food for anyone to try. I know people are like, oh, dried prunes. Actually, a fun thing that I've done recently when we've had some friends over is I've actually put rum extract in my prunes and just added a tablespoon of water in a jar. And oh my God, they are so yummy. I don't drink rum, but a little bit of rum extract will make those prunes plump up and and are quite tasty. And prunes are actually really good for bone health as well.
We've been talking about calcium and potassium. Let's not leave out magnesium. That's an important nutrient too, that I think we see it with aging. The amount of magnesium that people have in their systems tends to drop, and it can lead to a lot of problems.
Right. And so one of the one of the biggest things about the Mediterranean diet, dietary pattern, is for snacks. They don't have a lot of processed carbs. They eat a lot of nuts for snacks, and nuts are a great source of magnesium. It's actually tough to get enough magnesium in your diet. A lot of people do take magnesium supplements, but nuts are a great source of magnesium. Yeah. Yeah. So nuts are a great snack. As long as you measure them. The best nut is a measured nut. It's my philosophy. So 1/4 of a cup of nuts for a snack is great.
Yeah.
Don't eat out of the jar, the can.
Yeah. Portion.
Weight. Nuts are, people ask me, what's the best way to gain weight? And eat a lot of nuts and eat a lot of avocado. I call avocado God's butter. Yeah. I'm not sure who came up with that saying, but avocado is just fabulous if you like avocado.
One of the best tricks you ever taught me was those serving size baggies, the ones that are marked 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup. And, so we could still shop at the big box stores, but the minute we get home now, we divide up the big boxes of cashews into 1/4 cup portions, and so isn't as much as you think.
It is. It's so easy to overeat nuts. People think, oh, you're so healthy. There's something called greenwashing, actually. People think, oh, well, avocado is so healthy. I had this little girl, I'll never forget, when I used to work at Children's Hospital, and the mother's like, oh, my baby's gaining all this weight, and they were saying that she would give the little girl a 1/2 of an avocado, and she would just eat the whole avocado, just spoon it out. 1/3 of an avocado is a serving. So if some child is eating a whole avocado every day, that's a lot of calories. It's a lot of extra calories. So it's a great source of fat, but you gotta watch the portion of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We had another question about with the rum and the prunes, et cetera, and or sugar. Do we worry about sugar levels when we're talking about combining alcohol and dried fruits?
So again, with the rum, there is, not too much rum. I mean, if you just put a couple tablespoons in there, and the prunes, again, are natural sugar. It's not added sugar. So if you had prunes and pork, that would actually be you could actually count that. The pork would be your protein, and then the prunes would actually be your fruit serving. So what you would need is some kind of a starch. You could have a small sweet potato with that, or some brown rice and some veggies, and you're great. I mean,
increase the fiber.
Increase the fiber. Get some kind of a healthy starch in there, right? Because there's no fiber in there. But yeah, if you put a little bit of rum for flavoring, and pork tenderloin, actually, anything with a loin by it is going to be a leaner cut of meat. So better than pork loin. Pork tenderloin is actually pretty lean, pretty low in saturated fat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's such a challenge where we live and what typical American diet patterns are. You're constantly swimming upstream to try to be healthy. And, I've had numerous patients now tell me, they go and live in Europe for a year and lose 15 pounds and move back and immediately gain 15 pounds again. And, there are so many sugars in the foods that are presented to us. It's really challenging. I think there are 85 different terms for sugar and sugar substitutes. And a lot of the time we're just not aware of what they are. So, you don't realize that what it is that you're eating is sugar.
So again, what I would do, what I strongly recommend is look at the labels now. Sugar added. So the key is added sugar. So if you get any label that you have, so say I get my oats out. So if you look down at total carbs, there's actually a little line that'll say added sugar. There's no added sugar to this. And even like some of the almond milk, actually some of the plant-based milks have added sugar. And then they look at regular milk and they're, oh, there's too many carbs in there, there's too many sugars in there. If you get milk like 1%, 2% whole milk, that when you see sugars in there, those are not added sugars, that's milk sugar. So the problem is the added sugar that we need to worry about. The natural sugar, we need to eat more fruit. Don't fear the fruit. Don't fear the grains. It's the added sugar.
One other question, which I get a lot in clinic, and has to do with timing of eating. We're seeing a lot of ads and interest in this concept of intermittent fasting. And I know we've talked about this before, Mary, and you have some pretty strong opinions about, the fact that really you should be eating something within an hour or two of waking up every morning, and it should contain protein. And I think, a lot of people try for that, but I'm having more and more patients come in who are telling me that they're doing a 16-8 fast, and, they have coffee with a little bit of cream in it, heavy cream in the morning, and then they start eating at noon. And they're using it as, I think, a weight loss tool, but also as a means to try to control blood sugar. So do you want to share your thoughts about that too? Just because I think
so there has been a lot of research on intermittent fasting, and my feeling on that is, again, there's three things I started this with. I started easy, enjoyable, sustainable. Sustainable is the key. I've had so many people do intermittent fasting, and then eventually they go back and then they start, gaining weight back. But if you can sustain that, if, there's no one size fits all. If it actually helps you to wait until 12 and you have a window of eating, if it works for you and it's helping your blood sugar go down, there are some studies that show that it is helpful. We need more longer term studies on that. But it's what works for you, what is sustainable, what is, that keeps your mind clear. A lot of times people get really hungry and then they tend to snack later on. But if it works for you and if it's helping your blood sugar come down, I think it's fine. The one thing about the window is a lot of times people finish at, say, like 6 o'clock at night. They don't eat anything after 6 or anything after 7. Actually, there's a lot of good to that, because usually in the evening, we're not snacking on broccoli and hummus, or we're not snacking on, an individual bag of popcorn. We've got the huge bag of something out. So, not what our snack choices later on at night are usually not the healthiest. So having a cutoff at night, again, a lot of people really find it helpful. And if you find it helpful, I embrace whatever pattern you want to follow. This is an option. This is just one idea that is actually just in the evidence-based nutrition. It's been shown to be one of the best dietary patterns out there. Mm-hmm. And so the more whole foods we have, the fewer the ingredients, the less processed it is, really is healthier overall. So I'm going to stand by that.
Yes, for sure. No, and then people are seeing marvelous results with it too. A lot of inflammatory conditions that are quieting down, and as people age, sometimes they will develop lactose intolerance and those sorts of things. And you when you're teasing out different food sources, then you can identify some of those things and can really help with overall symptoms. So, but yeah, it's just good to be healthy, good to have a healthy diet. It's,
yes. People feel better. They feel like they have more energy. And again, one of the biggest problems in America right now is we don't move enough. Yeah. And, we need to move. It's not so much what you do at the end of the day, or you go to the gym, or you go one walk, it's what we do during the day. And we've been sitting here a while. Right. So we need to get up, but moving through the day, every half an hour to an hour, get up, stand up, move around. It's so incredibly, if you want to do something for your blood sugar, move more during the day, especially after a meal. we need to move more, and we're just sitting way too much. Lotion equals motion. Motion equals
Lotion.
equals lotion. Juice for the joint. So the more we move, our brain grooves as our brain grooves as our body moves. So we even think better when we move.
Words to live by. Well, thank you, Mary. This has been wonderful as always. I always learn something every single time I talk to you. And this is, we've had numerous opportunities now to visit, and I still take notes. So thank you very much for taking the time and coming on with us and sharing this information. It's really such an important component of overall health. It really, having the diet, straightening out your diet can make a huge difference on so many fronts. So you really have to start there to solve problems.
Small changes. Remember, just a little tweak here and there, and it really does help. Really does help. And I'm so honored. Whoever joined us today, or whoever's going to watch the recording, I thank you for giving me your time and this opportunity to share.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. And we'll do it again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. All right. And yes, there will be a replay. This is on Facebook Live now, and also we'll post it to my website, but the link will be on the website to Facebook. It'll stay on Facebook for a while, Sherry, so you can follow it later. And we're so glad that you joined in, and we'll hope to see you again soon.